A Less Than Royal Narcissist. Part 33.4. The analysis continues. Harry talks about not venturing out in public, and that they spent a lot of time at home in front of the television, cooking dinner, as opposed to being spotted out and about, being photographed at restaurants and so forth. He talks about how it has made them a lot closer. Quite the shift for the party prince. This evidences the monopolization of time that the narcissist engages in, isolation from potential interfering influences, the assertion of control, and the embedding which takes place during the seduction period of the golden period. Those of you who have been ensnared by a narcissist will recall the times where the narcissist wanted to spend as much time as possible with you. Always wanted to go on dates, coming around and spending time at your house or inviting you around theirs. Wanted to meet all of your friends, but often just doing things together, the two of you. Entire weekends together, staying over all night, talking on the phone for hours. And this is the monopolization of time that the narcissist will engage in as part of the assertion of control, drawing fuel from you, of course, pouring sugar on you, tipping in the honey over you, to ensure that you become ensnared, that you are encased in the narcissist world as we draw you in. Not only by doing this do we gain control over you in the instant, we are continuing the inexorable march towards embedding you as the intimate partner primary source through engagement or marriage, or moving in together. And this was what was happening. And Meghan Markle was solidifying her hold, the hold that we see throughout the entirety of the interview, on Harry. He was gaining the golden period. He'll probably be getting a lot of sex as well, and therefore some spicy poontang action will have been delighting the old ginger prince there. As you know, sex being a major method of seduction utilised by the narcissist. And therefore, all of this spending time together not only allowed the direct assertion of control and the drawing of fuel, but it kept Harry away from any potential interfering influences. So if there was anybody that thought, this is all happening a bit too fast, or I'm not quite sure about her, Meghan Markle was ensuring that those people had reduced access. She couldn't entirely limit it, of course, because they were still meeting other members of the family, etc. But it meant that the lion's share of Harry's time was with her. The interviewer then asks, "Have you met the Queen?" Meghan Markle responds, "It's incredible, A, to be able to meet her through his lens, not just through his honour and respect for her as monarch, the love he has for her as his grandma. All of those layers have been so important to me." This comment evidences facade management, character trait acquisition, and the fact that Harry is seen as an extension of self. She continues, is that when I met her, I had such a deep understanding, grandiosity, and of course incredible respect, facade management, for being able to have that time with her, and she's an incredible woman. It's notable, of course, in this response that Meghan Markle talks about herself first, and then mentions how the Queen is an incredible woman. This evidences grandiosity, self-absorption, and flattery. Talk turns to about meeting William and Catherine. Meghan Markle states about Catherine, "She's been wonderful." Note, she doesn't say she is wonderful, but she's been wonderful. This, of course, evidences the fact that Catherine's painted white, for reasons that I've explained in an earlier section of this analysis. It's also flattery, but it shows a sense of grandiosity, namely, she's been wonderful, as if, well, that is what I expect of her, because I am very important and the universe revolves around me. Harry then moves on to praise his family, such as William and Kate, Prince Charles, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, with regard to meeting Meghan, and she confirms, "They've been amazing." This again evidences the black and white thinking, they're painted white, and the assertion of control through flattery by talking about the members of the royal family in this manner, although, of course, the black and white thinking altered, as we have seen through later episodes. Asked about her parents, the interviewer states that obviously, whilst very happy for you, do you think that they have worried about what you are getting into? Meghan Markle states, "At the outset, both my parents and my close friends were concerned because we got very quickly swept into a media storm, which was not part of my life before that. They had also never seen me so happy, and I think that once my friends were able to really meet Harry, And my mom, who we spent a lot of time with, it was so much fun. Her mum's mentioned, so far no mention of father or siblings, and of course the friends are mentioned. The friends are mentioned because they form part of the coterie as non-intimate secondary sources, under control and favourable, ditto her mother. We know, of course, that there is friction within the Markle clan between father and daughter, between the siblings also, for reasons that I need not go into in detail here, as has been expressed elsewhere. And of course, they nary get a mention. Why? Because they're painted black, and therefore they are not invited to this particular situation in any detail, and indeed, as we later saw, they didn't even get to go to the wedding. She continues, it was just obvious that no matter what we were being put through, that it was just temporary. It was obvious we were going to get through that. So far, the conversation really is all about how she's been dealing with the media storm and isn't actually talking about what the family think about Harry. And in the circumstances, of course, it's all about her, self-absorption and deflection, because the narcissism doesn't want to talk about the family friction because that would adversely affect the facade, and the narcissism needs to keep the facade in place. Finally, Pa gets a mention. He, not Harry, he has talked to my dad a few times. He hasn't been able to meet him just yet, but it has been worth every effort. She talks more about her friends in the media storm than her own, and mentions her mother, than her father, who gets a brief mention. But her father hasn't met his future son-in-law, even though they are now engaged. And, of course, there's no mention of the siblings. Now, of course, there doesn't need to be a roll call of absolutely everybody in Meghan Markle's wife, but you might have thought that the siblings and the father would get more of a mention and at least would have met Harry over and above her friends. But, of course, the friends have met him because they're part of the coterie that are easily and readily controlled. And in the circumstances, what we are witnessing is the assertion of control over those individuals, and it is done through compartmentalization. Again, Prince Harry hasn't met the father, and I'm sure he felt that was rather unusual, but he will have been fobbed off with explanations about it's not just possible because of distance, it's not just possible because of schedules, etc. Well, they seem to manage hobnobbing back and forth over the Atlantic pretty well in the early stages of the relationship, but not well enough, it would seem, for other family members to be met. And of course, we all know why that is, because they're painted black. And Meghan Markle's narcissism doesn't want Prince Harry exposed to the interfering familial influences, because they may very well tell him some home truths about who she is. And if that came to his knowledge, although it's not guaranteed, it may well affect Meghan Markle's control over him. Therefore, on her behalf, the narcissism seeks to keep him separate from those interfering influences. And that is what has happened. The ring finally gets a mention, and therefore the relevant jeweller is probably thinking, thank God, when on earth were we going to get around to that? Prince Harry explains that it's yellow gold because that's her favourite, and it's a main stone from Botswana, and the little diamonds either side are from my mother's jewellery collection, to ensure my mother is with us on this crazy journey. It's interesting that Harry uses the word crazy. One would think that would be the last thing that you describe about being engaged and marrying somebody. This may well be an unconscious reference on his part that he realises this is something of a roller coaster already, and the speed at which it's moved is somewhat crazy. Meghan mentions that the ring, it's beautiful and incredible. And there is talk about Princess Diana. And of course, more will be made of the relationship between Meghan Markle and Princess Diana in the Diana duplication, which is coming in due course. At this stage, the hand, throughout this 20-minute interview, remains gripping Harry. I dare say his hand is completely numb at this juncture. I've also seen an outtake where the pair are talking off camera to somebody, and for a moment she actually lets go of Harry to gesticulate, and the thumbnail demonstrates that. But even then, her left hand is seeking to assert control over him all the while, to ensure that there is that direct physical assertion of control. The interview fades. We can see from it that Harry was repeatedly manhandled. He was the recipient of the intense stare that is utilised by the narcissist for the purpose of asserting control, a failure to recognise boundaries, the need to keep him in gaze as part of facade management. Many of the emotions exhibited by Meghan Markle were clearly, patently false as a consequence of their selection by the narcissism. And if you want to understand more about how that's done, listen to my video, The Imitation Game. There are many repeated indicators evidencing the narcissism in full flow here, but during the seduction stage. The idealization, the assertion of control, black and white thinking, compartmentalization, grandiosity, self-absorption, lack of accountability, contradictory behaviors, sense of entitlement, the assertion of control physically. And there, whilst to the uninitiated they may think, oh, there's two very happy people who are utterly besotted with one another, those of us who know far better, as a consequence of the understanding of a narcissist at work and understanding the narcissistic dynamic as it plays out, realise that this was an instance whereby Prince Harry was becoming more and more ensnared as the tendrils wrapped around him. This is the analysis of the engagement interview. Please do like this video and the other set in this particular part, share them with other people, and ensure that you subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so that you can continue to receive world-class information about the narcissistic dynamic. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.